Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Friday Morning Live. Today is May 1, 2020. Hope everybody is safe and sound, whether you're currently working in your home office or some of us are from time to time are going back into the office on a periodic basis. And I'm in FAI headquarters this morning with a few other staff members. So, but I wanted to kick off today's show and hold on here. I want to share. All right, Brian. There we go. Everybody stand up and let's take a stretch break, because I know many of you have been at your office early this morning. So take your stretch break. We got a couple people in here taking a stretch break. I like it. So let's keep moving before we bring in our special guest. But one of the things, and we're certainly doing an awful lot in online and virtual classes. Christy Stacy's in here this morning, and she's kicking off some National Alliance virtual classes on Monday. So if you've not registered and you're interested in a Ruble or CIC or a CISR, certainly go on the calendar. But, do you have time right now to take some education classes? Certainly we have a lot to offer here at FAI. Does your employer pay? And, who, if you're not using us, who's some of the providers out there? We're just kind of curious who some of the competition is, right, Brian? What challenges do you continue to face working remotely from a computer standpoint or just camaraderie standpoint, from just your saneness, just your mental health? Are you type that into the question pane. Are your customers adapting to working remotely? Cindy sent us a note this morning, Brian, and it looks like we've been working remotely now going on 8 weeks. That's hard for me to believe, Brian, but that's what Cindy said in our e-announcement. So some people are saying we are going nuts. So I understand. It's a little harder than others. Wow. One of the agents just replied, I gave my staff a mental health day recently. It was good for all of us. Well, John, that's good to know. Hopefully some of the other agents on here are listening to that and maybe want to do the same thing. So very interesting. Has your office been discussing hurricane preparedness? In a few weeks, we're going to do a show on hurricane preparedness. Believe it or not, June 1's coming, and we're going to have to do it post or during COVID-19, depending on, where we are in the mix, with the governor opening some of the state, with the federal government doing certain other things. So, but we're going to have to prepare. And how is that going to look? How are we going to adapt to it? And how are you going to be able to staff your resources within your agency, either working remotely to help your customers if they, God forbid, have a claim? So, but we'll have a show on that on the 22nd of May, talking about all that. So again, coronavirus industry updates. Agatha and her team are constantly feeding this page with the latest information. Big I is putting out a lot of information, and there's other resources. So certainly I suggest checking with that at least once a week, more so if you have some issues and some topics that are, on your mind. And then, we blog a lot around here. We tell you all the time, and certainly updating the blogs on a regular basis is also something that we suggest as we go through this COVID-19, but also other issues. So we talked about, how you're getting your CE. We've converted a lot to web-based learning. You'll see Christie's Ruble and CISR, and the CIC will be the next day. But a lot of classes that David and Jeff Odom and others are teaching throughout the week. So take a look and see what happens. Wow, Progressive is offering unlimited CE free, F-R-E-E. Well, we can't compete with that, sir, but I'm sure Mr. Thompson would love to come to your agency. So, But top questions we're getting here. We try to update this on a weekly basis. Laura just blogged on this. The extension of the order allowing 440 licensed staff working remotely. So that is a hot topic. That order currently is to expire on May 8th. We have written a letter to the CFO and our regulator for agency and agency licensing, and asking that that be extended to at least June 19th. So more to come on that, but that certainly is something that's been on a lot of agents' mind, considering some of the staff considerations of course, school not going back in. And quite frankly, most of us that have younger children rely on summer camps or things that we can put the children in during the summer as we try to navigate work and taking care of the children. And those won't be available. Let's be honest. There's not going to be any church camps, summer camps, Y camps. So the regulator understands that as we go forward. So hopefully we'll get a reply with that soon, but we're on it. We've written the letter officially, and Laura blogged on it talking about that. Intel Agent Survey, we relaunched it. Kyle did a video on it that's out on the Facebook page. It was featured yesterday in the Agents Confidential. So if you've not completed the survey, please take a look at it. Help us gather the needed information to create a data source, a data set to help you as a member of FAI understand how salaries look throughout the whole state of Florida, because we're trying to get a mix of agency size and location. So certainly if you've not done that yet, please take a look at that video. They have shortened the questionnaire, so they're not asking for everything at this point, but enough information to create a nice data set for salary survey and benefits. Temporary licensure. This was announced a week or so ago, having the ability to receive a temporary license because the testing centers are closed currently. And so if you wanted to even get your 220 or your 2044 or other license types, you couldn't sit for the exam. You can certainly study for it and do all the prerequisites, but you couldn't sit for the exam. So they created some temporary licensing options for you. Well, we had a member yesterday that wanted to go in and do that. And I went in to see what the process was like. And in very bold letters, Brian, in red, it said, temporary license closed. And I said, wait a minute. It's a temporary license. How can it be closed? Well, talking to the regulator yesterday, when they opened up that website, they had over 2,000 applicants within 48 hours. They had no choice but to close it down right now to get the backlog, because it's a temporary license. If you're going to be backlogged for 6 weeks, it does you no good to get the temporary license. So if you need help with that or you're looking for help, please reach out to me or Laura here at FAI. We'll navigate it. We were able to help that agent through that, but that's what happens. They had just a year ago, they have had occasion to do some temporary licenses. They normally get about 12 requests. They went from 12 to 2,000 in 48 hours. So, yep. So that's kind of the thing. All right, last thing before we bring Susan on is convention. That's certainly a hot topic around here. Hot topic with you all asking about it. We will have a decision by May the 5th. I've been saying that now for the last several weeks. And so just be on the lookout. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of that, but we'll have an announcement, the first of next week about convention and the availability of it or the postponement of it or the whatever of it. So just be on the lookout for convention stuff coming up. And again, it'll be through either a blog or announcement through the website. So just be on the lookout for that. So, let's bring in my special co-host. Susan, you still with us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good morning, Dave, and thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. And Susan is one of the principals and co-founder of Oceanus Partners, who recently, joined forces with Resource Pro in 2019. And Susan's been part of the FAI team for the last several years and has helped us at convention. She's helped us with some meetings and for the local board. She's helped us with some young agent stuff. So many of you may know Susan. Many of you may have dealt with her on different things. And so we're glad to have Susan aboard today because, part of the issue that we're all going to face is what this new normal looks like. And Susan brings a great perspective on what this could be because her client base, even though she has several here in Florida, they have a national footprint. So they deal with a lot of agencies throughout the U.S. And so she's got a perspective she's going to bring today of what she's seeing, what she's hearing, what she's developing as a resource for her clients of selling in the new normal. So Susan, again, welcome. And your first slide, it talks about it, how quickly times have changed, pre-COVID-19 and now post-COVID-19, whenever that post comes. I think we're starting to open up Florida for sure, and other states are as well. But, what are your thoughts on how quickly times have changed? How do you bring that perspective to the table for our audience today?
Well, Dave, you kind of teed it up perfectly when you opened up this morning. It's only been about 8 weeks, right? And for some of us, that seems to have gone by just in a snap. And for others, it feels like, oh my gosh, it has been 8 weeks. But just 8 weeks ago, we were still handshaking. We were still bringing people close to us and patting folks on the shoulder and saying good morning, in our workspace and with our clients and prospects. We moved to social distancing and protective measures, and then now we're seeing that we've got what may be our new normal, which is some virtual training and some virtual selling. But times have changed significantly, and I had a really great opportunity 2 days ago to interview one of our agents out on the West Coast, young agent, been in the business for about 4 years now. And talk to him about what's happening, how has this changed, how he's engaged with prospects, how he's engaged with his clients, and what he thinks is going to happen moving forward. And I was somewhat surprised at his response in that he really feels that this has been a great opportunity for him. He has really embraced the opportunity to learn a new skill, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And in fact, if you want to just advance that slide, he's talked about the new skill of being able to follow his sales process and to engage people utilizing technology like Zoom. And if there's been one beneficiary, there's been some beneficiaries out of this COVID-19, it's been Zoom. Their stock is up about 26% since February 19th, while Standard & Poor's has gone down about 32%. So some of these technology features are really demonstrating their value. And what he shared with me is, this gives me first of all, a broader marketplace. No longer am I confined to just my current geographical footprint. He has some area of specialization. And he says, now that I'm really comfortable selling and reaching out to prospects and having conversations with clients remotely, why do I need to see in my geographic footprint? So I think for some folks, it's going to be the glass is half empty, but some other folks who are willing to embrace change, embrace technology, the glass may be half full.
Right. Well, that's an interesting perspective. And as we turn to the next slide, now we have to develop some resources, some foundational stuff of what this really means for the agent. How do they adapt to this potential new normal?
Absolutely. And I think if there's one thing that agents can really draw on is being a source of business value to their clients. That hasn't changed. If nothing else, this crisis has put front and center the need for high impact advice, leadership amongst agents, reaching out proactively to clients, and just, first and foremost, asking their clients, how are you? How are you doing? What challenges are you facing? What frustrations are you experiencing? And let them know that you're there. But we also have to be able to pivot, right? We have to be able to say to our clients, let's talk about some of these challenges and how we may be able to help you address them. Let's talk about, I just had just was reading Facebook this morning, like everyone else, I think, early morning read while I'm having my coffee. And there was a post from a restaurant owner, a local restaurant here in my part of Florida. And she was really, really challenged. She is one of the few restaurants, I would say, she's not part of a chain, independent restaurant owner. She pays 75% of her employees' health care. And her question to the community was, what do I do now that I'm allowed to open up? I'm allowed to have some seating inside. I'm allowed to have seating outside with people 6 feet apart. But I'm also required to make sure that my staff stays 6 feet apart in the kitchen. Well, in order for her to put out the quality meals that she puts out, she has to have a full staff as if the restaurant was going to be fully seated. Yet she's only allowed to have 36% of her restaurant opened. So her question was, what do I do? I can't continue to afford to pay health care coverage for my employees. So do I drop health care? And if I drop health care, does that how can I assure that my employees are going to remain healthy and then as a result not be a risk to my patrons who do come to the restaurant? Those are big challenges. Those are big decisions. And that requires good high impact advice from brokers. So employers need brokers more than ever, and brokers need to step up, quite honestly, reach out to their prospects, reach out to their clients and say, can we have a conversation? Were you prepared for this? And if not, do you need some help?
Right. And I think that leads us to the next slide is some of the skill sets, some of the things that agents need to consider and developing or honing those skills and certainly adapting to this new sales process that I think, quite frankly, now that some customers, some policyholders are kind of used to this, it's probably something that you're going to have to continue to have in your bag of tricks. Right, Susan?
Yeah, I think so. I think that what this pandemic has shown us is that business owners are looking for something, and this actually came out even before. We'll talk about this a little bit greater depth, a little bit further into the presentation, Dave. But business owners are looking for these new emerging and escalating risks that could catch them by surprise, like this pandemic. How many business owners out there had the opportunity to buy pandemic insurance before all of this happened? How many of them had the opportunity to go through a comprehensive risk assessment to make the decision to either buy it or not buy it? I'm not saying that every business owner would have bought pandemic coverage, but did they have the opportunity to buy it? Did they have the opportunity to really assess their business income and whether or not it was going to be adequate? That's what we're really seeing, is that those skills, we get complacent, we all do, but those skills of helping business owners assess risk and making informed and intelligent decisions around what coverages they want, not just kind of going through them a list, do you want this or do you want that, but really helping them understand the impact of not buying coverage and what it means to self-insure. This is what we call a trigger event. We are in a trigger event environment right now. This pandemic provides a tremendous opportunity for brokers to reach out to prospects and ask them if they felt as if they've had the opportunity to assess risks in the past and would they like to go through that process now to perhaps alleviate future pain. And that's a skill that needs to be acquired. Those folks that have a sales process, they're going to be able to adapt faster for the need to be able to lead prospects through technology meetings, through Zoom meetings. Those folks without a process are going to be a little bit more challenged, I think, than those with one to be more effective and lead more effective conversations with their prospects and clients.
You know, you've mentioned Zoom a couple times here, and earlier Brian and I were talking about it here internally. Well, yesterday Jeff Odom was doing a meeting, and he heard a stat. Prior to COVID-19, there was 10 million subscribers to Zoom. Today, there's over 200 million subscribers to Zoom. You've already talked about the stock increasing. So certainly that's the platform that a lot of folks, including agents and businesses, are really adapting to have these meetings and have these conversations. So when we talk about conversations, you know, Susan, technology is going to be our friend. It's going to have to be our friend. We're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to use technology in a more efficient way. We're going to use it, again, as you say up here, in a different way. But I think, again, it's part of our sales practice. It's part of our tool in our tool belt of how we do it. And you know, your first point is technology. How is technology going to be, you know, kind of used and utilized going forward?
Well, you know, I think one of the reasons, and I don't get paid to pitch Zoom, so
I understand.
I don't get paid to pitch Zoom. But I think one of the reasons why it's taken off so well is it still allows for the opportunity to read body language, to see someone, right? So you've got that video aspect. And so I think that it still provides the opportunity to have that face-to-face conversation. I was talking to a producer that we've been working with, now for over about 10 years up in the Northeast. And he said, I was looking at your interview of that producer out on the West Coast, and he seems to be really comfortable with the technology. I have a face for radio. What am I going to do? And I said, you know, you got to get out there and you got to practice and you got to get comfortable. But, you know, you put a few sessions under your belt and it becomes second nature again, just like those real face-to-face, 6 foot apart conversations. So it's about practicing and embracing technology. And as I said earlier, our agent out in California said, you know what, this has allowed me to use your words, Dave, to have another tool in my toolbox. I can now have more remote conversations or more conversations with people who are outside of my geographic area because I'm very confident following my sales process utilizing technology versus I have to be in front of them. Right. You have to learn how to build rapport. You have to be in better control of your environment. I was on a Zoom call not too long ago with some folks, and we were doing 2 days of virtual training. You're talking about virtual training before. We were on a 2-day virtual training. And during that training, you know, everybody's working from home, and working from home means we have, you know, it's a little bit messier, right? So we have dogs and we have kids coming in and out. We have spouses forgetting that they're walking in front of the camera and all of that. We have to learn how to control our environment the best we can. It's not going to be perfect, to your point. We're going to have a lot of people working from home with kids. And so we have to understand and have some empathy for that and limit the distractions when we can. But we also have to help people be engaged. And for folks that maybe are for the first time utilizing technology, utilize it with an agenda. And I think that's a really important takeaway. Make sure that you're purposeful for what you're trying to accomplish in the given period of time. If you're having a call with a prospect, and by the way, folks, you can close new business right now. We're seeing our clients close significant pieces of new business because they are reaching out. They're asking some of the questions that we talked about earlier around the opportunity to assess for risk and what that process they followed prior to the pandemic to make risk management insurance buying decisions, and it was on price. But now they see that they may have the lowest price policy, but that policy isn't performing the way they needed it to or expected it to. So use an agenda, and be purposeful around the conversation. Be clear around the limits of your time, and gain agreement with your prospect on how much time they have for those types of conversations. But agenda-driven meetings are going to be even more important now, because we can really begin to wander if we're not in control of the environment.
Yeah, you mentioned about the Zoom meetings, and they all the time on different whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever, they're coming out with these comical videos of what the environment looks behind the presenter. Like you say, what's on the wall, what are the pictures, and what does that mean about you? Everybody's trying to analyze, what your home office looks like by looking behind you during these meetings. It's been pretty comical on some of them. So
it is, and you have to have empathy.
Yep.
I think if you bring to the conversation your genuine curiosity, empathy, a little bit of humor, and say, hey, look, I didn't plan for this, but this is where I am. I think we can build rapport that some folks feel like you can't create rapport through technology. But I think if you bring a little bit of empathy, a little bit of humor, and a little bit of yourself, you can certainly build that rapport.
Yeah, it's good that you talk about the prospecting and the new business. We've talked to a lot of agents, and right now is prime time. There's no doubt about it. If you're reaching out to those prospects, you're having conversations, you're engaging them virtually, you're going to get a response. They're eager to have these conversations. Just talked to one yesterday, been working on this prospect for the last couple years, just reached out and said, hey, it was a home builder, and say, hey, do you understand certain things and potential here? And unfortunately, the incumbent agent didn't have that conversation. She did, and she's going to write the business just by reaching out, being that resource, as you said, Susan, and talking about things that are impacting that particular business. And the construction business has certainly been impacted quite a bit. So that's good news for those, because certainly as renewals come in and payrolls go down and so on and so forth, agents are going to start seeing some loss of revenue just by the nature of what's going on with businesses being closed. So, but the next slide talks about what brokers can expect on the other side as we unravel and get back to work, so to speak, and open up the state, and other states, not just Florida, but other states are now opening up to business. What can brokers expect on the other side, Susan?
I think we're going to see clients become, hopefully, I'm being optimistic here, but hopefully clients become more savvy, business owners becoming more savvy, and realizing that, they have to give their broker more time to adequately assess risk in that business. Get me the lowest price. I think if any broker that hears that comment post-COVID, have to be comfortable and confident with empathy and without arrogance to say to the prospect, the lowest price is not going to protect your business, it's not going to protect you, and it's not going to protect your employees. And do we want to make sure that you have adequacy of coverage? Isn't that what you really want, to make sure that your business is properly assessed? And to do that, we have to have a conversation. To do that, that means I can't go on a fool's errand and be assigned 3 markets while you assign 3 markets there and 3 markets elsewhere. I have to be able to have a conversation with you, and you have to make a decision to do business with a broker and let that broker bring you to the marketplace and that broker to assess your risk. So I'm hoping that agents use this current trigger event of the pandemic to really lead buyers to make better and more informed decisions, to lead buyers to recognize that the process that they often use of bidding and quoting actually hurts them and puts them at risk and prevents them from getting what they really want, which is a policy that is going to perform the way they expected it. So
right.
We have to continue to display empathy. We have to, for our existing clients, we absolutely have to be reaching out on a regular basis. How are you? Where are you? What's the status of your business opening? How are you managing your employees? Look, we've got employees that maybe for the first time working from home, and maybe they're working from home in another state. How is that working? How's 24-hour coverage working for workers' compensation? What if your employees are answering emails at 11 o'clock at night and trip? We expected to have that covered by work comp. Lots of questions and lots of opportunities to help businesses assess this new normal. I also think that there's going to be businesses, Dave, that utilize this as a way to really begin to contemplate, do we need as much office space? I'll be interested to see what happens to the commercial property market. Do we need as much office space as we had? Hey, you know what? We've been working from home for 8 weeks. People are doing well. We're still productive. We're selling, or we're still managing the workload. Maybe we don't need all this real estate. So there's going to be a lot of things that we need to help our clients assess and help them once they start to either change how they do business or where they do business, make sure that their policies are going to perform.
Right, and continuing down that path. Did I go too? Yeah.
Nope, you're good.
Yep, next slide. But to continue down that path, we talk about the skill set, we talk about capabilities, and out of those, Susan, comes training, workforce development, creating a foundation of separating yourself from the pack, right?
Absolutely. There was a study that was done not too long ago by PwC, Price Waterhouse, and it's called Brokering 2020. If anyone wants to look at it, it's a white paper that you can download. And it talks about what business owners are looking for from their broker relationships. And they're really looking for 3 skills. They're looking for brokers who have the ability to help them identify new, emerging, and escalating risks. They're looking for brokers who can help them make better informed decisions around risk financing and risk management through data. And they're looking for brokers who have a greater level of specialization so that they can really talk about the industry and be knowledgeable about the industry in which that business owner is part of which that business owner is part of. And so I think that's going to be something that for folks on the line or agency principals to be thinking about as they hire new producers, replace producers, or look to help producers be more effective. Do they have these skills? And if not, what am I doing to help them gain them? Small business is going to take a big hit. We believe firmly that brokers should be working upstream and working on larger, more complex opportunities where their high impact advice is going to be valued and where they can really gain greater level of specialization. So there's going to be some new skills that are required. I think some of these have been burning issues, but I think this pandemic is really igniting the flame and is going to cause some rapid change in what we do with new producers and even some seasoned producers to help make sure that they're effective and efficient and still able to grow their book of business.
Can you repeat that white paper title and the resource
yes,
there?
It's absolutely. It's PwC Brokering 2020. And if you just type that in, PwC Brokering 2020, you'll see that white paper come up.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, if you have any questions of Susan or that, just type them in and we'll get to them, as many as we can with the few minutes we have left. But, Susan, the relationship that you have with FAI and the members, you've taught at our convention, you've helped out at local boards, you've been a resource online and through blogs and other things. What other things can you from your team help our members as they navigate the new normal from your vantage point?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave, for asking that question. You know, if you're bringing on new producers and you're looking for an effective onboarding process, and you're looking to help them differentiate in the marketplace by gaining greater specialization, by adopting a sales process that's more consultative and helps lead buyers away from bidding and quoting towards a more effective approach to risk management and insurance buying, we'd love to have a conversation with you. If you have maybe some seasoned producers that are struggling to make the transition to this new normal, we'd love to have a conversation with you. We're going to be launching for the first time, Dave, in 10 years, we're going to be taking our work comp workshop virtual in June. We're going to be, instead of it 2 days live, it's going to be 4 half days. And we're adapting as well. So we encourage folks that when it comes to producer onboarding, effectiveness, training, and development, if you have questions, if you need some help, you just want to have a conversation, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation.
Well, and we'll certainly have that information on our website soon about those June meetings. But in the meantime, Susan, if a member was interested and wanted to take a peek at that information for those June virtual meetings, how can they do that? What's the web address for that?
Our website is oceanuspartners.com, OCEANUS partners.com. Or folks are welcome to give us a call at 888-496-1117. And we're just in the process of updating our website, so the virtual training registration is not there yet. But feel free to also email me at susan@oceanuspartners.com. Be more than happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, and some people on the line have taken your and Frank's classes at convention. Certainly, work comp is near and dear to their hearts. But we've had Frank at the work comp conference. We've had, again, local boards utilize your services. So there's some things out there that may be partnership looming. So certainly reach out to me. I'll give you the contact information. But these are folks that been around our campfire. They've been helpful on a lot of issues, strictly not just workers' comp, but certainly from the sales process and so on and so forth. So we encourage you to reach out to us, and if we can help in any way and lend you some information about Susan and her group, we'd love to do that. So, Susan, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to continue on and just talk about some upcoming shows. But thank you so much for this morning's presentation. We appreciate it, and we'll certainly have some information out there soon about those workshops and the ability for agents to take those to learn more about this process from a work comp perspective, but also the sales process as well. So thanks. Have a great morning. Upcoming shows, folks. Next week, Jeff Grady will join me with a conversation with our friends from Marshberry, talking about the impacts of the pandemic for insurance brokerage firms. Certainly, they deal with a lot of these transactions throughout the U.S., and so they're going to bring us a perspective that you don't want to miss as far as what they see or what they're seeing, what's happened pre and potentially post-pandemic. So certainly next Friday, May 8th. The following week, our FMS partner, Evolve, for cyber liability, will be on. In that session, folks, has been approved for 1 hour of CE. So certainly recommend tuning into that, and you'll get an hour of CE as well as they go through a presentation about what they're seeing from a carrier's perspective as it relates to cyber and some of the things they're seeing from a gap perspective, from some of the policies and some of the procedures that are out there. The following week, our friends from RITEC will be on talking about hurricane preparedness. That's May 22nd. Certainly want you to tune in. We all need to dust off those manuals. We need to dust off, our procedures, because normally when we're doing this, we're all in an office. We're all together. Well, we're not right now. And most of us will probably continue to work remotely throughout this process. So how are we going to coordinate all these efforts to help our customers if we have a hurricane, during that early part of June or later on. So certainly want to tune into that. And then we'll round out the month with citizens, folks bringing us an update on what's happening from their perspective. Certainly ask them about their hurricane preparedness techniques that they're going to be engaging in, some of the things that they'll have to do and have to acknowledge COVID-19 of how they deal with claims activity, but also some of the systems issues that they've advanced, some of the things that help the process of transitioning some policies from the private market into citizens if you need that resource. So just want to round out the month of May. A lot of good topics coming up. We encourage you to register for these and take advantage. That cyber class, again, it's an hour of CE. So you'll kill two birds with one stone, as they say. You'll get a good topic, a good foundation of information, but you also get an hour of CE for it. So I appreciate everybody's time this morning. Be safe out there. Reach out if you have any questions. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you for being a member of FAI, and have a great day and a great afternoon. Take care.